Do the Seattle Mariners hate their fans? Now that might sound like a bit of an over-exaggeration, but honestly, it's a fair question. Coming off of breaking the playoff drought in 2022, the Seattle Mariners haven't really said a whole lot about the 2023 season and what's to come. You would think that coming off of a season with such big hype, having a player like Julio Rodriguez in your ranks and Seattle sports as a whole growing as much as it is right now, this will be such an important time for the Mariners to hold events for fans to get them excited about Mariners baseball. In the past, we've seen things like Mariners FanFest or even Mariners commercials, but unfortunately, none of that's happening. Usually Mariners FanFest is held the second to last weekend or the last weekend in January. Now I'm recording this on the 14th of January, and as of right now, nothing has been announced, so you would think they probably would have said that by now if they were having it at the end of January. And this is not the first time that they've canceled FanFest. No, actually, far from it. The Mariners haven't had FanFest since like 2018 or something like that, including when the field had to be redone twice due to the Enchant Christmas celebration they had at T-Mobile Park. As noted on Soto Mojo when Colby Patnode was still there, he said Mariners canceling FanFest is indicative of larger lack of concern. To start off the article, Colby said, for the second time in 3 years, the Seattle Mariners announced they would not be holding their previously annual FanFest due to poor field conditions caused by the Enchanted Light Show. For those of you that have never been to Mariners FanFest, this was such a formative part of my childhood. My biggest FanFest memory was waiting in a line outside of T-Mobile Park, or at that time Safeco Field, when the Mariners signed Robinson Cano, and it was indicated that he was going to be at FanFest. At the time, you could go in and pick a lane, which would give you an autograph voucher. And of course, my goal was to get the Robinson Cano autograph voucher. I wanted his autograph, and I got the very last voucher that was possible through that line. Through these autograph voucher lines, I've also met players like Kyle Seager, Mitch Haniger, so on and so forth. FanFest was also a great way to just get excited for the baseball season, to go back to the ballpark after a long winter, after the drawing months of winter, pouring down rain, nothing exciting going on, finally getting back to go to the ballpark and just experience that atmosphere, maybe grab some chicken strips or something like that, take pictures of the ballpark in the winter, and just get that feel right before spring training began the next month. Then of course in 2021, again because of COVID and restricted capacities, FanFest was once again canceled. 2022, however, there was no FanFest. And what's even more interesting to me is that as the years have gone by, we've actually received less and less information as to why it's been canceled. Before they would at least say, oh, the field's not ready. Oh, this isn't happening. That's not happening. But I don't think we heard anything for 2022, and we haven't heard anything for 2023. And now we're going into one of the most exciting seasons as a Mariners fan, 2023, and still no FanFest. FanFest also always had other fun things to do, like trivia or exploring the ballpark in places you normally wouldn't be able to go. That would include the tunnels, the clubhouses, the press box, so on and so forth. And speaking of the press box, the Mariners are actually launching a brand new press club, which you may have heard about during last season. This is a fancy pants area to sit during the Mariners games, and unfortunately for most of us, we'll never be able to sit up there because, frankly, we can't afford it. But I would love to be able to go up and see it just to see what it's like. But unfortunately, because there's no FanFest, that's probably not ever going to happen. And then if you want to sit in the press club for the Mariners, if you want to sit in the back 3 or 4 rows of the press club, for just 20 games per seat, it would be $7,500 for 20 games to sit in the press club. Or, if you guys have deep pockets, $27,000 per seat for a full season. Needless to say, I'm not going to spend that much money to go to a Mariners game. And speaking of places that fans are not able to go, do you guys remember in 2022 when Mariners fans basically weren't allowed to go into the pen or other cool parts of the stadium because they were closed for private parties? And it seemed like every single day of every single game, those areas, including the pen, the Trident deck, and like the Hit It Here Cafe, were all closed due to private parties. For example, Merk Mill on Twitter said, as your weekend correspondent from T-Mobile Park, I feel obligated to note the pen is once again closed for a private party. That is 3 out of 3 times this weekend. In 2023, instead of having all those areas closed, they're opening the pen for all 81 home games in 2023, which is a good step in the right direction. And believe it or not, this is actually the very last Mariners commercial they had involving the players, the very crafty commercial. The Mariners commercials were always so good, and the fact that they stopped doing them is really indicative of how out of touch they seem with the fan base right now. Commercials including Julio Rodriguez as well as maybe Teoscar Hernandez would be so much fun right now, especially with how exciting this team is at the moment. After doing Mariners commercials from the 80s until 2019, the Mariners now have not done them for 3 years. And again, part of that, I guess, could be because of COVID, or at least that could be their excuse, because obviously all these players and staff are together as it is, so I don't see how that would really stop them. Now, do I actually think that the Mariners hate their fans? No.
Why you always lying?
Absolutely not. I just feel like they're just out of touch with what is going on with Mariners fandom as a whole. Obviously, we had some great weekends there at the end of the year, and of course, the Mariners fandom is at an all-time high at the moment, just simply because of how good this team is. This video is not meant to knock the Mariners in any way, shape, or form.
Are you sure about that?
This is more of a way for all of us to share our thoughts and hopefully bring to light that, hey, this is what we want as Mariners fans. We want FanFest. We want these commercials. We want to be able to access all the cool areas inside of the ballpark. And especially with the All-Star game coming up in 2023, and of course the Mariners' rise to notoriety in 2023 in all of MLB, it seems like a really good time to double down on the fan experience for the people that have been with you for this 20-year playoff drought that was ended last year. It feels like a really good time to double down on those people and celebrate them and continue offering all these options that were offered during some of the dark years in Seattle. Maybe the front office thinks that they don't need to necessarily do that now because the Mariners are exciting in their own right, and they don't need to have FanFest or Mariners commercials to make it that much more exciting. If you go to the Mariners commercials part of their website, this is what shows up. Please check back soon for new commercials. But they haven't had any new commercials since 2019. And then if you go to the Mariners.com FanFest site, it says please check back for more information about the next Mariners FanFest. But I'm pretty sure the last Mariners FanFest was 2018. Again, it's small things like this that I think would amplify the Mariners' way and what they're trying to do as a ball club to really include their fans in an ever-growing excitement of the team itself. Knowing my luck, they're going to go ahead and announce that they're going to have a FanFest in like late March or something right before the season starts. But with that being said, I still think this is a video that needs to be published and needs to be brought to light, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on it, to be honest with you. I think a player that I'd be really excited to see at FanFest would be Felnin Celestine, and we have a video on who that is on the screen right now. Appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.